lockdown. And during that 17 years, it's just been accelerating at a quick rate how our freedoms are being taken away from us. And now it looks like we're steering it towards taking away our weapons. That's pretty much the last stage. Once they de-weaponize everyone, all the citizens, they can easily come into our homes and walk us out the door and put us into whatever kind of internment camps. And there are thousands of them, as I've researched, all over. So we're at a turning point. This is critical, and it's getting worse. And like you said, in the last 2 years, it seems worse than ever.
I don't know. It just seems like I've talked to a lot of people that are frustrated. You know, they can't find a decent job, or when they do find a job, let's face it, the jobs are not paying very well. I mean, can you support a family working at McDonald's? You know,
No.
It's not any major big companies like there used to be. It's all offshored. And like I was just telling you, I was talking to a guy who owns an auto parts store, for example, this weekend. And he's starting to sweat because his business is dropping down, because when he goes and orders his parts from his supplier, they're starting to run out of them because they're not coming over because of what's going on. And does that improve our economy and help it when people start losing their jobs? No, it makes it all the worse, and it's going to hit fast unless they can get this thing resolved. I mean, this is ridiculous. I am going to put a tariff on you for talking to me, right? You're going to put one back for me talking to you. What's it accomplish in the end?
I don't think there's any way to traditionally solve it. I mean, think about it. I think the root of this problem is oil prices. I mean, on the surface, traditionally, in modern economy, the root of our problem right now is oil prices, because when the oil prices, and they've been messing with the oil prices now for like 30 years, ever since they started like extremely raising our gas prices and lowering them. Remember when they tried to raise gas prices about 15 years ago, and everybody complained big time. It went up like 70 cents. And so the government stepped in and they brought it back down to something manageable.
Well, I remember, I'm at the age, I remember back when we had our gas lines where you couldn't get gas. And then you had to get gas every other day. Funny thing is, I had a very good friend who, you know, worked for one of the big oil companies, right? And what they were doing was pumping all the gas into empty gas stations because they had so much gas. They didn't know what to do with it. So they were going to all the abandoned gas stations that they were, you know, owned or whatever the corporation owned, and filling up their tanks full of gas because they wanted to drive the prices up. So people, you know, I remember at the time with my very first wife, big mistake, we were in Seattle. She was about ready to give birth, and I was out of gas. And the guy at the gas station said, "No problem, I'll hook you up with a half a gallon. Give me $20."
That's $20 for a half a gallon of gas? What
back then. Yeah, back. Oh, hey, then I can honestly tell you that the same thing when I was in North Carolina. The gas shortage was going there, and that was the big time of it. And, you know, it was really nice. You know, they were supposed to, you know, give everybody a certain amount of gallons and stuff. But the station owners would, you know, they had their best friends and their acquaintances. So they'd tell you, come in the morning, and then you could fill up. And then other people, if he knew you vaguely, says, hey, for an extra this amount of money a gallon, I'll give you, you know, so many gallons of gas. They were ripping people off right and left.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, there was no shortage.
Look at the harm that this monetary system causes. It's so pathetic.
Well, I just know that even my own kids, you know, they work their ass off, and whether they're working for pretty much the minimum wage. I mean, if you go out there, there's a lot of jobs out there, isn't there? But they're all in the service industry that pay like shit.
Yeah. And I get I'm on Indeed. I've been on there for like, you know, when I resigned from the government, I had my resume on Monster and Indeed, or, you know, the different resume sites. And the only jobs that there are is, like you said, physical labor, restaurant industry, and government contracts. like I get emails all the time for people because I had a top secret clearance. They're looking for someone with a top secret clearance or had an active top secret clearance. So if you think about it, the only profiteers right now who are making good money are those working for the Department of Defense of the U.S. of A. Corporation. They are hiring police and they're hiring spies, basically government contractors to go and you work for Northern Command or any of the major commands collecting intelligence, because it's all about processing the intelligence. And then you got everybody else who's having to live on this substandard minimum wage. The whole gas crisis thing, and the fact that we are even using so-called fossil fuels as our primary source of energy is ridiculous. It's so stupid that we are still stuck in some fake fossil fuel era using this stuff, oil, that we don't really need to use, just ripping it out of Mother Earth and forcing people because of gas and oil prices. When gas prices and oil prices go up, then everything goes up. And if they're not raising the minimum wage respective to the oil and gas prices, then it's going to be a natural hyperinflation while everyone's still stuck at their old salary, not able to pay for all the stuff that we have to pay for to survive in this Federal Reserve world that they've thrown us all into. Well, it's manufactured.
Oh, yeah. And, you talk about ripping the oil, the life's blood from the planet. They don't realize, and they do realize, but a lot of people out here don't realize it, right? So they sit there, right, and they find a well, and they sit there and suck it pretty much dry as much as they can with the equipment we have that make it feasible to do it, right? Then they pump water back into it. Now, is water thick as oil? It's not. So what happens years later, the ground starts, getting earthquakes. It starts opening up, sinkholes start appearing. But hey, we made our money off that property, but they're destroying the earth.
It's
look at Antarctica.
It's so heartless.
Look at Antarctica right now, Ronald. Okay, we are really going to be screwed, and it's going to be a lot faster than what they tell us. I'm willing to predict, like within the next 3-5 years, if you own property like in Florida, well, you're going to be pretty much underwater. You're going to own waterfront property, because I'll tell you what's happening now in Antarctica. The last pristine bay has been frozen over. As long as we know, been able to track it for millions of years, is now breaking up, melting, and raising the sea level more. And it's going to discontinue more and more faster. Now, what's going to happen, is that when that gets more of that water, fresh water mixes with the salt water, it's going to cool it. It's going to contaminate the water. The other issue you're going to have, it's going to, how the water goes around from the equator and all that stuff, and it keeps Europe basically from turning into like a frozen wasteland. Well, know what? Maybe in the next couple years, because of all this shit we've been doing on our planet, that, places like Europe, like in the UK, Russia, where are they going to live when they start going way below zero on a constant basis, and they came and heat their houses, they came and pump fuel, they can't do anything because it's going to get that cold. People laugh it off, but it's the truth,
I think it's all a long-term plan, long-term agenda that the people who have put up the Georgia Guidestones are working towards that, and I think they have a long-term plan. And they're slowly and steadily decreasing the population by creating all kinds of toxins and hazards for us to have to endure that is just going to wind up in mass kill-offs. And I believe that that HARP exists. I think that it's a part of chemtrail spraying. I think there's a mechanism in place that can control the weather. And I think they've had that for a long time. And they're the ones that have been housing, vast amounts of seeds and, keeping food stores underground with their deep underground military bunkers, while all hell is just kind of breaking loose on Earth, all across the Earth domain. Right now, I'm in Florida, and there's a big, big problem. The Everglades are being destroyed systematically right now because of Lake Okeechobee and it being poisoned by Big Sugar, the big sugar companies right there in the central heart of Florida. And they're poisoning the waterways, and we're starting to get red tide all up and down our shores now. And it's like they're intentionally destroying the Everglades so they can build condominiums and houses through there, and it's causing mass die-offs, algae spreading that's killing ecosystems. So these heartless scum are literally destroying our planet for their own profit, and they're profiteers who are putting themselves above the law by having all of the weapons and the Federal Reserve notes to oppress the people from keeping them from doing this. We're not allowed to go onto a military base and hunt down the chemtrail planes and go and say, you guys need to shut this down. We know you guys are flying the chemtrail planes out of here, and you need to stop it now. The people are speaking up, and we're saying we're not going to let you poison our skies anymore. Yeah, but
you know what? I really say this. You're not going to really find chemtrail planes like a lot of people think you will. They are mixing it with the aviation fuel. I've heard this from a couple major people in the industry. They swear up and down that every time a plane is taking off, the majority of them is doing it right there. Well, every flight, every jet that's going by is dumping it.
Yeah.
You know, it's mixed in their fuel. And why? There's a couple of different aspects why they're doing it. One is they're trying to, whatever the Earth temperature, hey. The other is, well, then you get into the real other stuff that they're trying to make it for you really can't see really good out in outer space anymore with telescopes because they're contaminating, the atmosphere. Again, I've had some scientists on my show. I got one coming up later this month that it claims that Planet X is definitely heading our way. NASA knows about it. The governments all worldwide know about it. That's why they all have been going up for the past year or so to Antarctica. We'll be the last ones to know. So maybe they want to thin us out way before that for it's, less to deal with. I don't know.
I think there's a lot to Nibiru, Planet X, coming through our solar system. I kind of look at it in several different ways, though, as far as what I believe, because right now I'm at the point where I can only make a few educated guesses on what the real truths might be. Like, are we living in a solar system where we're going around and there's other planets, now we have a planet coming through? Or are we living on a flat plane in some type of covered by some kind of a dome with a whole bunch of other Earth ponds around us, and the Antarctic ice wall being a container for this Earth domain, and is the sun and moon in our atmosphere? Or are we living in some type of a holographic simulation where this is just a computer game and our consciousness is plugged in and none of this is even real, and whatever we see in the sky is just part of a manufactured light show by the simulation? Or are they doing the chemtrails to create some type of a holographic area in the sky so they can use the way they control the, HAARP and things like that to cause cataclysms and make it look like there's a giant planet going through our skies? Apparently, the writings of history say that Nibiru has come through before, and that there's been every cataclysm.
Yeah, about every 3,600 and some odd years it supposedly comes by. But man has survived each time, I mean, so I don't really buy that. I got a funny feeling it I don't know. It's called mind control. And what you said about Earth being flat or being round or being on a simulation on a game, maybe on an alien planet. Who knows? Maybe a planet basically decided to capture our intelligence and put it on some type of computer type of system and letting us think that we're still surviving. Maybe Earth is long gone. I don't know.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. And if you look at it like this, like it is some type of a game, then there's no harm in us living the best life that we can live and saying as a group, all right, listen, this is ridiculous the way you corporations, you governments are treating us. We don't have to put up with this. This is life. We may as well live it and have fun instead of the stress and the fear that's being injected into everyday life. It's so unnecessary. Regardless of which scenario we're living in, I really think that it's almost out of our grasp.